So I'll leave interest off the CDs.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is the Village of South Russell's special council meeting. Today is Monday, September 16th at 7 p.m. Fiscal officer will take the roll.
Dewey.
Here.
Porter.
Here.
Bob.
Here.
Burger.
Here.
Canton.
Here.
Kavanaugh. Here.
This is a special council meeting. We have two items, the police, the Chagrin Valley Dispatch and the police department electric upgrade. Since this is a special council meeting, we can only talk about those two things. On your agenda in front of you is the way we normally handle communication, because we're all here for one specific topic, the Chagrin Valley Dispatch. We'll be a little looser as to how we go through this process tonight. I want to give a little history as to how we ended up where we are. South Russell's 101 years old, and for most of those 101 years, we've been connected to the Chagrin Valley Fire Department, along with Chagrin Falls Township, Hunting Valley, Bentleyville, South Russell, and a section of Moreland Hills. A few years ago, we received ambulance service from CNA based out of the street commissioner's office, but basically it's been Chagrin Falls. As demand for dispatch service grew, Chagrin Falls Village was found to be lacking in space. Working in an area, at one point, the dispatchers moved their feet and somehow disconnected the entire dispatch system. Then Chagrin Falls Police Chief Jim Brocious twice spearheaded an effort to build a safety center to house the dispatch. It was not successful. Finally, in 2014, the 6 members of Chagrin Valley Dispatch moved to a new home in the basement of Bedford Hospital. In 10 years, CVD has grown from the original 6 to 32 members, with additional locations in Brecksville and Heights Hillcrest, which is near Severance Shopping Center. CVD is the largest regional dispatch center in Ohio. There are 59 municipalities in Cuyahoga County and 30 belong to CVD, along with the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department and the Cleveland Metro Park system. Community size ranges from Chagrin Falls Township, who had 58 calls last year. South Russell had 1,944, and Euclid had over 59,000 calls. Chagrin Falls Township, if you try to do that on a call basis, it's going to be about $417 a call. We pay about $45 a call. Euclid would pay about $26 a call. There's so many variables. Obviously, we need to do something. The inequalities have occurred, and we've addressed those inequalities. For the past year, the Chagrin Valley Dispatch Executive Committee has been working with finance directors to create a new formula for participation in CVD. The CVD Executive Committee, there's 7 people. The mayor of Euclid, Solon, Highland Hills, Independent, South Russell, and University Heights, along with the trustee from Chagrin Falls Township. At our last meeting, the executive committee voted 4-3 to bring this formula, which you see on the screens, which you have in front of you tonight. This will be discussed Wednesday afternoon with the 32-member Council of Governments for a vote. South Russell's an oddity. We're the only member of CVD not located in Cuyahoga County. However, we do pay Chagrin Valley Fire Department over $1,400 a day for fire and EMS protection. Our contract expires at the end of 2025. Since 2013, our CVD dues have gone down 5%. Our cost in 2013 was about $62,000. In 2024, we're paying $59,000. If you look at the rate of inflation, we should be paying about $82,000 a year. The proposed increase, which you see again on the screens, it's an increase of $28,000, or a 48% increase. And the people in the orange, which are also on the sides, you can see the changes. Some of them have gone up, some of them have gone down. When you look at something like Independence, they've been paying almost $300,000 over what they should. I feel the proposed cost for the CVD membership is in the best interest of the residents of South Russell. And that's why I voted as a member of the executive committee to support this proposal. I want to have everyone in the room introduce themselves. Nick, we'll start with you. We need your name and address, and then we'll go to Andrew. And then okay, so Nick.
So Nick DeSico, 4047 Oaks Road in Brexton.
Andrew Recker, Finance Director for CBD, 4470 Oaks Road.
Todd.
Todd Neitzel, Long Police Chief, 4350 Sunset Road.
Ethan.
Ethan Spencer, Mayor of Marlin Hills, 4350 South Center Road as well, Marlin Hills.
Thank you all for being here. I did invite all the communities that share Chagrin Valley Fire Department case, and I think many of them have already approached you or had conversations with you. Safety Committee is we had a meeting last week where I presented this to them, so we're here to get an in-depth, a little bit, in other words, a better explanation than what I just gave, as to where we are and why we're here now. So Nick, the floor is yours.
So appreciate you giving me time here on the floor. I'm just going to do a brief overview. So we have an executive board, we're council of governments. We are a government entity, all the employees are in folders, just like I'm assuming the employees here. But it's important to know that we are a government entity, we are not a private corporation for profit. We are ruled by a governing board, which is our executive board, that all of the COG mayors elect, and they serve a 2-year term. So our president is Mayor Gale from the city of Euclid. Our vice president is Eddie Kraus from the city of Solon. Obviously, Mayor Coons is our secretary, and then John Finley, township trustee for Chagrin Falls Township, is our treasurer. As we grew, we decided that we needed an employee from each of our 3 facilities. So our main facility is Bedford, it's in the basement of the Bedford Medical Office Building, the Bedford Hospital. Then we're part of the Brexville Police Department, that's about 5,000 square feet there. Then our 3rd facility is at Metro Hospital, the old Kaiser facility in Cleveland Heights. So we have a representative that, again, the members out of each facility elected. So Cleveland Heights, it's Mayor Brennan from University Heights. He represents that facility. Brexville, it used to be Mayor Rubin until he retired last year. So it is now Mayor Kirch from the City of Independence. And then out of our Bedford facility, it used to be Mayor Fritz. Unfortunately, with his passing, we replaced him with Mayor Booker from Highland Hills. So that is your executive committee. Very similar groups will make up of anything else, but then we have a representative from each of our 3 facilities as a voice. So when we started in 2013, our billing practices were based on billable call volume. So when I say billable call volume, if an officer were to call off sick, they call out on a follow-up, they're going to court, those are non-billable. Those are, we only bill for real police calls, which are your alarm drops, your domestics, your fights, you're going on a fire call, an EMS call. Those are the billable calls. So when you see that South also has a little bit over 1,000, those are billable calls. It doesn't include everything that we process. But we have a users group committee from each facility that we coordinate. And those are what we call the boots on the ground. So we ask for a sergeant or below. Then we have a chiefs group, which are your police and fire chiefs. Then obviously we have the COG level, the mayoral level, which is our fiduciary. They approve our budgets, and then they say yea or no for the members. So we always used to bill based on that. When COVID hit, it broke everything. Because everybody in the smaller, sleepier communities, they hunkered down, they never left their homes. Everybody in your cities, your Maple Heights, your Cleveland Heights, your Shaker Heights, your Euclids, it was chaos. The kids didn't stay home. And they went out and they were stealing the channel converters, they were getting into fights, so their call volume skyrocketed. And we didn't think it was fair during the COVID era to penalize these people because we're not in a worldwide pandemic. So the mayors uploaded the first year, we had surpluses to increase everybody's rate by 1.75%. We do our billable call volume from July 1st of the preceding year to June 30th of the current year. And we do that for a couple of reasons. That gives us 3 months to meet with the executive board and with the full COG, so then we can come up with and approve a budget, so we can give it to the police and fire chiefs, so they can give it to you folks before your next fiscal budget. So prior to COVID, we're working on data from 2019. The second year comes, we now have CARES funding. Because we're a council of governments, we are not eligible for a single penny. So we had to make up for that 1.75% that we did. And the mayors approved a flat 7% increase based off your 2019 call volume. We just put another flat percentage in. We didn't adjust for anything. In walks year 3, it was a flat 5%. Year 4, which is this year's budget, it was a flat 4%. Again, we're basing this all based on 2019 call. Any questions on that so far that way? I talked too fast, I apologize if I can go too fast. So last year, they gave me my very first finance committee, very similar to what you have. And one of the recommendations of the finance committee is that we needed a full-time finance director. So as of January 1st of this year, we have Andrew, we got a part-time finance director. I was doing most of the billing work, the deposits, because our part-time finance director just didn't have the time to devote to us what we were needing to do our growth. We had to bring on somebody full-time that understood the finances and it could help take some of the work off the plate. So we met, they spent 2 years looking at different funding models. And the committee members are, and keep in mind, all of these finance directors were voluntold to be on this committee. But we have John Potts from the city of Shaker Heights, Tom Raguse from the city of Brooklyn, James Smith from the city of Euclid, Matt Rubino from the city of Solon, and Rich Petrenick from the city of Seven Hills, who recently resigned because he took a position with the city of Independence. So that was your finance committee. And what they did is they went out and they looked at a ton of different models from across the country of dispatch centers that are our size, because we're the largest in Ohio. And I'll give you just a quick where we came from that. But the state of Ohio passed a bill that said Ohio has way too many dispatch centers. It was I'll call it a control thing, is where a lot of the chiefs didn't want to give up that control. Ohio's behind the times for over 25 years. Everywhere you look, they have consolidated dispatch centers because we can get you a police car, fire truck, ambulance much quicker than a single PSAP. Where we lose is that personal touch. So if Mrs. Smith calls and she has 2 red-headed grandchildren, we don't know that. We don't know if they play rec soccer like you would if it was a single dispatch center. But I can get Mrs. Smith an ambulance or police car and fire truck much quicker. So you have to weigh those types of things out. And it's a much more cost-effective way of doing business. So when that House bill struck, we have 2 different dispatch centers. It was us or what's called CCOMs, it's Howard County. So when you dial 911 from a wireless phone call in our county, you go to CCOMs, which is a county answering point. They will answer 911 what city is your emergency in. You're going to tell them Chagrin Falls. Please hold, and then you transfer you over to us. A lot of residents get very, very frustrated because they may not know where they're at. I'm in Beechwood, I'm on 271. Okay, please hold. They transfer to Beechwood. You get to Beechwood. No, you're in Warsaw Heights. No, you're in Orange Village. So they're constantly going around on these transfers and they're getting more and more agitated because they have a true emergency. It's not their fault. It's not our fault that they get this transfer. So everybody in our county said, hey, listen, we can either pick our partner or we can default and go with the county. That's how we grew to the size that we've grown. We've outgrown our Bedford facility, we've outgrown our Brexford facility, we still have room in our Cleveland Heights facility, but we have grown leaps and bounds in the last 12 years. That is a true statement. Probably too quick for my comfort, hence my gray hair and my weight gain. But we went from 8 full-time employees to over 130, and we have almost an $18 million budget. So that's how big we've gotten. So when we had our first budgets, we were under 3 silos. So the Bedford facility was like your budget for your police department, Brexton was like your fire department, and Cleveland Heights was like your service department. So based on those budgets for each of the facilities, that's what drove the costs. Under this new model, we're trying to consolidate and put all 3 centers, one global budget, instead of the 3 different ones, and that's where you're getting your cost efficiencies down. So when we did, the best way to explain it, so that some of the agencies that we went to is the NRECC, that's out of Dublin. We dispatched for about 8 different communities. You have JeffCom out in Colorado. I want to say they're almost at 20. We have SNOCOM out of Washington, which is similar in size. Montgomery County, Allegheny County out of Pennsylvania, and Hamilton County out of Ohio. These are all regional government dispatch centers. Andrew and his team did all the work, and there are so many different cost models. Some of them are very complex, like Chagrin Valley Fire. Some do it just based on population, some do it based on your land value. All of them that we've surveyed, not one single one of them does it solely on the call volume anymore, because it's not fair. And the call volumes fluctuate so much. Every year you're either going up or down, up or down, up or down. There's no consistencies. And the example that I use, and I hate to pick on Euclid or some of the bigger cities, is one of their officers got into trouble. used a little bit too much force on the RSD. And now what people have to do is they go out and they do their PR work. So, they'll call out a lemonade stand, they'll call out doing a business trip, they log that in CAD. So it's about 15,000 more CAD calls, but all they're doing is logging that they're doing some PR relations. That's not a billable call. So if we were to bill them for that, their call line is gonna go up and down. Very similar to some other smaller businesses, Sugar and Falls, those business checks over in Plaza. So we didn't think that the call volume was a viable option on the do this business factor in each community. We want to give you something to stay, where you can predict your costs. So, all this shows is based off of,
Sorry.
off of what it costs to run a channel. So for what it costs to run one of our channels, it's 4 full-time dispatchers. We run 12-hour shifts, 6A to 6B, 6B to 6A, 1 shift's on, 1 shift's off. That's 4 dispatchers. So for South Russell, we share with 8 other communities. Whereas the city of Shaker Heights, they have their own police channel. So they pick up the tab for all 4 of those dispatchers. Whereas you guys are splitting those 4 dispatchers and dividing by 8 rates. And that's where your cost efficiencies are coming into play. There were some things that wanted our dispatchers to take a look at, having them have a little scratch pad and keep track of how many minutes they're on the calls. Because a domestic, a robbery, we're gonna stay on a call with you until the police arrive. Or if it's a medical emergency and it's a 13-year-old little girl with her dad and having chest pain, we're staying on that phone call until the ambulance arrives. We can't, it was impossible because you can't ask our staff, okay, listen, this is going to spend 12 minutes on it, this is going to spend 2 minutes on it. It was impossible. So that's how the finance committee came up with this costing. And as we came along, the first iteration, if you look at the admin section, that was $44,000. Because we felt that there had to be a minimum buy-in for a city to be part of the organization, because it's just like the fire department. You're paying for a service to be available 24 days, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. A true example of these tornadoes. 3 of the 5 tornadoes that hit this area were under our umbrella. Our call volume spiked by almost 20%.
Oh, it was on that day at 3 o'clock, for example, we logged 100 calls, and then at 4 o'clock, it spiked to 1,000.
To 1,000 calls. So that's what you're paying for. Are you gonna have a tornado every day, or are you gonna have a house fire every day? No. But there is that point of doing it. Same thing for capital improvements. We have voice recorders where we record every single phone call, all the radio traffic. So whether you are Sugar Falls Township and it takes 40 calls, or you're Shaker Heights and takes 40,000 calls, you still need that piece of equipment. And that should be paid for equally, because it doesn't matter how busy you are, you still need that piece of equipment. And that was the mindset there. We met with, after the last COG meeting, they asked for us to hold 3 meetings to meet with all of our partners, because you guys are an owner of CBD. There's a membership agreement, you're the boss, everybody has one vote, whether you're a Shaker, Cleveland Heights, Euclid, Maple, or Sugar Falls Township. Everybody has one equal vote. And they said they felt that admin cost should be split in half, so that's what they did. They took that opinion, 44,000 down to 22, it lowered a lot of the valley agencies, and that seemed to make everybody a little bit more happy. So, as the mayor discussed, when you guys joined in 2013, you were at 62,000, you're 59 now. Not only are you down 5.3% of that 12-year membership, we also refunded you $14,500 of your capital buy-in. So those original departments had a capital buy-in. So your capital buy-in back then in 13 was $62,000. So we refunded you $14,000 as those new members came on. We're not seeing the cost efficiencies at Bedford when new members come on anymore because we're built out. Can we take out an Oakwood or Walton Hills? Yes. But can we take out another big city? No, we just don't have the room for it anymore. So, and the only thing that I could tell you is that, you guys have the lantern, and since they've started, it's almost over 800 calls for service. That hasn't been included because we kept on putting those flat increases on. So if it was back to that call volume, as they would go up, and now if there are spikes with the lantern, you would have been paying much more 4 or 5 years ago, and it would have gone down again. If that up again, and put that percentage on, I think for your instance, it saves you a lot of money. But I think your cost efficiencies is over a 12-year term of being a member, you've gone down 5.5%. So I am, me and Andrew are here, be more than willing to take any questions for you, comments, knife throwing, something.
The 800 calls for service from the lantern, is that annually or total since we joined?
That's total since day one.
Since April?
Yes, sir. That's police and fire.
So if, it sounds like Bedford and Rexville, or someplace else, is that gonna be Cleveland Heights or?
So one thing when we had our 3 meetings with all of the mayors, they made it very, very clear, they want to see efficiencies. So the efficiencies will be is to try to find somehow, some way to get under one roof. Because at each facility, just like the police department, we need supervisors. So we have 8 supervisors at each facility, only 1 person can be off at a time. I don't need 24 supervisors at a new facility. We got plans drawn up to try to build one, and we got chest pains. It came in at $100 million. I can't come to council to ask for it. It's just, there's no way. So we have 2 sites that we're looking at rehabbing. They're probably about 75% less than that. We've been in contact with the Port Authority to issue some bonds, and the mayor's overwhelmingly said, listen, if you can show us that there's efficiencies, that we're gonna be paying the same, and with those efficiencies, we're able to pay this note for one facility under one roof, we support it 100%, knowing that our costs are gonna go down. And now with everybody under one roof instead of 3 different silos, now when you bring in a new member, we have 3 of them that are wanting to join, but they've seen what's going on, they don't want to go to their councils and say, it's gonna be $300,000, and then 2 months from now, I'm sorry, it's $400,000. They want to know what that exact number is. When those new agencies join, everybody's costs go down. Are you gonna go down $50,000 with the single agency? No. But you are gonna go down. So those are some of the things we're looking at. And we're looking at channel items. So on this east band, where the chief and his department are on, we can't put anybody else on there. But Bedford Police Department, they're on by themselves. Can we migrate them to somebody else? Absolutely. And that's less staff that we need. But right now, it's like anything else you guys ever see in the news. Public safety, which used to be a very prestigious job, that you had to know somebody to get in. You would have 500 people standing in line for one position. It's not that way anymore. Everybody's holding their standards and trying to find bodies. We're down, right now, we just started an academy, we're still down 8 to 10 people. We have 25 in training. We're not going to look at 80% of them make it. So we are struggling with personnel as well.
So it'd be, but you'll buy, whatever you go to, you'll buy it, you won't rent a space.
So we are working with another facility that, we can't mention yet, we're still tied up in a legal battle, that it's probably going to be free, we just need to rehab.
Oh, okay.
So it was built in 2008, so it's relatively new and it would fit perfectly for what we need.
So if you move to a new facility and you expand, what's your max expansion as far as channels and potential communities?
So if we go to one facility, we are going to build it out for 100 positions, so we have room to grow.
When you said 4 dispatchers per channel, is that 4 dispatchers per shift or just general?
Per channel. So I'll use the Bedford location as an example. Out there, we have 18 different departments, or I should say municipalities. We have 11 people per platoon, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 2 of those 11 people are allowed off on vacation, holiday, comp time, but the shift minimum is 9. So out of our Bedford facility, you have 9 dispatchers working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365.
Okay, so when you were formed, you started with 6 communities or something like that? Okay, and the idea was to grow, and as you did that, that would spread your costs over more communities, which would reduce the individual costs to the members. Correct.
So, truth be told, when we started this organization, this was supposed to be my retirement date. Relax. I'm working 10 times harder than I ever did as a policeman, but when that House bill passed, all the municipalities were panicking, saying, we want to pick our partner versus being told that we have to go to. So that's how we grew so fast. And if we wouldn't have taken them on, so I'll use our first 2, so Gatesville came on originally with us. Our next two were Highland Hills and North Reading. If we wouldn't have taken them out at that time, they would have found somebody else to go with, and then we would not have that cost reduction. But right now Bedford is at that max, we can't bring anybody else down to that, so.
Okay, but South Russell isn't looking at a cost reduction right now, they're looking at a 48%
Yes, sir.
increase. Okay, so, but I'm looking at the model and saying, the model was designed so that we spread costs over more communities and reduce the costs. And up until now, you talked about a 5.5% reduction in cost. Okay, that's fine. Now we're looking at a 48% increase. You know, what's the model going forward?
So we already know what our budget's gonna be for 26 and 27.
Yeah,
Andrew can vouch for it, but it's 2.8 to 3.2% for each of those years. Once this Band-Aid is ripped off on this new model, it resets itself and it's back to normal. You're not gonna see another 15, 20, 25, 40% increase.
okay,
And we have those numbers for anybody who wants to see it,
okay.
correct?
Yes, for everyone in this, band here that we're speaking about, looking at 2026 projection, it was anywhere from $3,500 to $5,400 increase, for the members, for the fiscal 2026.
Okay, so 5,400, the minimum is 5,400?
So
26?
yeah, for 26. So after we get past 25, the potential increase for 26
Yeah,
ranges anywhere from like $3,500 to like $5,500.
okay. Well, that's, even at $3,500 over $88,000, that's more than 3%. I can't do the exact number in my head, but I think I'm good on that. So, I mean, even at the bare minimum.
Yeah, we can send you those numbers, the numbers are already set.
Is there any thought to going to a population-based model? I mean, there's 4,000 people in South Russell, and we're dwarfed by Euclid, most of these cities. Although we have some villages and others here that are comparable to us, but was that ever considered?
For the population-based model, for us to have that, it doesn't work because consolidating under one facility, then we can't adjust for sheriff and metro park. We can't base their call, we can't base their annual costs on the population.
Okay.
I'm making a presumption that if you have to have, I think you said 9 people on at all times, that those phones are busy at all times.
So we answered last year over 800,000 10-digit phone calls.
How many?
800,000.
911, what is your emergency?
Well, the 800,000 are just the 10 digits when people are calling the 247-7321 or the 248-1234. That's how many people are calling the numbers. It's how I pay my ticket. What's my bond? Can I talk to I need a copy of a police report. Those are all calls that we answer that we get to transfer to each individual municipality.
Mayor, how many calls did we have up last year? Did you mention that?
1,944.
Where does that rank amongst the 32? Any idea?
32, I don't, no, you know what? Give me a couple minutes, I think
And those are, keep in mind, so those are billable call line. We've had more calls than that, just those are the billable ones that we're charging for.
Well, so is every building,
Yeah, correct. Yep.
you know, so that's a wash.
Now, of the 32 entities, the 1,944, are there entities that have more calls but are paying less this particular? See, that's, what I'm getting at is, first of all, thank you for the work, no question about that. I mean, it's very important service that you provide. But I would think that our bill should be based on calls. To me, that makes sense. If we don't use as much, we shouldn't pay as much. If we use more than we should, then it should be based on that. I mean, that's my opinion.
Sure. So I'm gonna use Highland Hills as an example. So they're a little bit busier than you are, but they're paying more than what you're paying because you're sharing your police channel with 8 other police departments. So on our east band, it's South Russell, which is Chagrin Falls Village, Chagrin Falls Township, Bentonville, East Mills, Moreland Hills, Orange Village, Woodbury, King Valley. So you're paying for those 4 full-time bodies, you're dividing by those 8 municipalities, whereas Highland Hills shares with North Rainbow and Rattnall, they're splitting those 4 dispatchers by only 3 municipalities. So it's not being based on call volume, you're splitting that cost of those 4 bodies, and then once you have those 8 departments, then it goes by who's the business. So Chagrin Falls is paying the bigger tab of that 4 people than you folks are.
How many municipalities can you fit in one channel?
Just depends on how many officers and what the actual call volume is.
Okay, so,
Could we ever put anybody else on the Shaker Heights channel? No. Euclid, no. Cleveland Heights, no.
so the simple solution is not just adding more municipalities to our channel.
Correct. It all comes down to the officer safety, how many people and officers can a single dispatcher manage effectively?
I know I asked you this before, and it's kind of a question that's difficult to answer. Out of the municipalities that are on our channel, 5 of the 9 are seeing a reduction, and we have the 3rd lowest call volume on that channel. Can you explain why we landed at the point where we are? So out of the 9 entities on our channel, the 9 municipalities or townships on our channel, 5 of them are receiving reductions. Can you explain how we went from where they are in the, we are at the 3rd lowest call volume on the channel. How did we end up where we are with the increase?
I mean, best explanation that I would have would be, the price was so low in 2019 that when the call volume was looked at, and again, these are call numbers based on a 2-year average. For the last 2 years, that when you plug call numbers into the calculation, that's where the spike comes in, because the 2019 was presumably low versus the call.
So we were paying a lot less than we should have for a number of years?
So if the example is, it was 2019 call volume, since then you had the lantern. So now this year, or we're going to the next year's budget, we're now taking 23 and 22 averages for these numbers.
I'm punching it.
Correct.
Okay.
But and I use Orange Village and North Rainbow as an example. They have had an increase just because back in 2019, there was no high price for Orange. And then for North Rainbow, there was no Amazon or Racino. So that's why they had their spikes.
Was there any consideration given to phasing this in over some period of time, these increases?
So I think Andrew can explain that.
Yeah, we looked at 3-year phasing, which basically, you take everybody with the savings, chop it up in thirds and then, put it over year 1 or 2, then everybody realizes where they are in year 3. That, it was discussed, and then it never grew any kind of following or acceptance, so the finance committee and executive committee decided to have the year 1 realization, and then, that basically rights the ship and going from there.
Okay, so for the 31 members who are in Cuyahoga County, if they would decide not to continue with Chagrin Valley Dispatch, what are their options?
So it's it's tough, because you really have no options. If you go back to do a dispatch center on your own, because of those new state laws that Senate bill, the state is required that you have 2 dispatchers on duty around the clock. That's an actual in the Ohio Rise code, and it comes with that as, kind of like with the police rifle. You have your training requirements, you have to have emergency generators, there's a bunch of, E&D certified, but just off the 2 people around the clock, if you're on a 12-hour shift, you're looking at hiring 4, 8, 12 full-time dispatchers, plus fringe benefits, and then obviously you got the capital equipment outlay.
So that would, the state would demand that per municipality, you're saying?
If you were going back on your own, so
Okay.
if you were gonna turn this into a dispatch center, you would be required to have 2 bodies on 20 hours a day, 365.
So then that explains a lot.
Well, there was the SECC, which was in Bedford Heights, back when we started, that got a lot of county money, almost $3 million to do it. It was Bedford Heights, Bedford, Maple Heights, and
Garfield.
Garfield Heights. 4 years later, it imploded, and we got Bedford and Maple out of the deal. Garfield went back on their own. So they went because of the management of the organization.
Okay, so Cuyahoga County is CBD or on your own. Those are the basic 2 choices.
Yes, sir. Strongsville has a regional dispatch center as well with 6.
Okay. So potentially if you might be able to join them. Okay,
And as you know, with technology, you can be in Colorado and dispatch.
I understand. Okay. So being in Geauga County, we have a different option,
Yes, sir.
okay? Which we may or may not like, but at least we have to pursue it. And that is to go back and go to Geauga Sheriff's. Okay? And for the council members who aren't aware, the cost to the village to be with Geauga Sheriff is 0. Now, the problem with going that way is that does not work with Chagrin Valley Fire Department. So we would, if that was a decision or an option that we wanted to pursue, we would have to pursue a different contract for our fire service.
Within Geauga County?
Yes.
Yeah, well, and the reasonable 2 options in front of us are Russell or Bainbridge. And nobody's had any discussions of any depth with them. I'm just letting you know what the issue would be. If we would say that's the way we would want to go.
I can tell you this, when this came up last time around, council?
When we were looking at Russell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the difference between them, as I recall, boiled down to the difference in response time.
Because costs were fairly within the bucket, but response time was concerned.
So the idea was that Chagrin Falls Fire Department could get to the western part of the village where a lot more people typically reside, meaning west of 306, faster than Russell or Bainbridge for that matter. And I think we briefly thought about Newberry too, but they were just too far away.
Right, but Russell was the principal provider that we were looking at. And, at the time, it made sense to stay with Chagrin.
So from that point of view, I don't know that, Bainbridge and Russell would be an option now, but, what we would have to look at is, you're talking about a $28,000 increase. If we do the big switch, and there were council members who were very much in favor of it, going to Geauga County and with a different fire department here. If it's more than $28,000 to go Geauga County and Russell or Bainbridge, then we're spinning our wheels.
Okay, well, we have 1 more year with Chagrin Valley that we're committed to by contract.
Right.
So 2025 is we're obligated. It would be 2026. And in some regards, that's good because it gives us time to actually have those conversations and to evaluate options.
We'll also note this, every taxpayer in Geauga County is funding that safety center. So we are essentially, our residents and us are paying for that service, but we're with you guys because Chagrin is with you guys.
Correct. So we are two separate entities, which is, it's easier to do that. The biggest thing that I can take, as my red flag is anytime anybody dials 911 from any school campuses, so it's coming to us because the whole mothership is 400 East Washington. So it's a transfer that we're gonna have to make over to Geauga County.
Very well put, though. Councilman Canton earlier asked, how did we rank on calls? We had 1,944 calls out of the 32 groups, communities that use this. We ranked 30th. Only Bentleyville and Chagrin Falls Township had fewer calls. The reason I voted to bring this issue out of the executive committee is I thought it's the best for South Russell. It's still, we have next year to look hard at what we're doing, but that's why I think it's best for our residents. Moreland Hills, thank you for being here. Do you have questions or do you have comments? I mean, we'd like to pick your brain if you've got some good ideas.
If you wouldn't mind, Mayor, I would like to ask them a couple of questions.
Sure, okay,
I've been
sure.
thinking about. The first one is, I've heard the discussion about channels. This was a new concept to me when I went to the mayor's meeting. But since then, I've had subsequent conversations with people that believe that the channel is not an independent thing. The channels share costs, they share resources to answer each other's calls, so that it's not as simple as just saying, you're cheaper because you have a bunch of people on your channel and you have your own channel, so you're more expensive. And I just wondered how do you respond to that, or how did the group think through that?
So I think that when the finance committee did their due diligence, they reached out to similar sized PSAPs. So the gentleman you talked to feels that we need to do it strictly based on call volume. And we reached out to what we consider our peers, the subject matter experts, and not one single one of them use call volume for the costs. Because it's not predictable. You could have, you could spike next year on something and go down and up and down, or try to level out the costs. And this just happened to be the model that, we thought was best for the majority of the organization.
You may look at, the Dayton Dispatch Center, for example, a while ago, they were on a pure call count, and, the same question came up. It was determined basically that, there's a different effort level based on the call type. So if you go purely on call count, then you assume all calls are the same across the board. So what they did with their technology that they had was they established 5 groups of call types, and depending on the call type, then those get weighted based on the effort levels that they call it. Divided into their budget, so on and so forth. With our new technology that's been in since January, is that correct? Or we have numbers from January. We could potentially look at that in the future once we get more data. Averaging it out, kind of understanding how long it takes for an animal response call versus a traffic call, or a shooting or something like that, and plugging that into the best thing that I like about this is this is scalable. Not only for new members, but for those kind of in the weeds adjustments. Because this does take call count factor into it. But once we have more data and we can get more, a longer average of that time, then we can potentially look at to see, what kind of effort level is out there for, the call type and, make any changes.
Yeah, I think when Moreland Hills, I know our calls are, they're typically simpler than Euclid's.
Yes.
Euclid has much more complex calls and, doing it on a call-by-call basis, if we're all paying the same per call, we'd be, I believe, paying a lot more. Because we're not driving as much cost per call as some of the more complex communities are.
So outside of homicides, every single municipality has the same call types. You guys don't have that quality. So Maple Heights, believe it or not, has more homicides than Cleveland Heights, Shaker Heights, and you almost combined. So everybody has their domestics, everybody has their, as your shots fired and they're probably fireworks, your kids doing something. You don't have the quality that the bigger cities have. They do it on a weekly basis versus we in the smaller communities do it probably on a yearly basis.
And the second question I had, Nick, was I heard you explaining the admin, but I didn't catch it all. So there was a number that was twice as big and you took it down, but what is really in that admin? And I understand you have to have equipment and all, I think that's what you were saying. But, I'm looking at a place like Chagrin Falls Township that has so few of anything, and they're paying the same admin fee as Euclid.
So we took admin, which would be myself, my deputy director, finance director, two finance clerks, our IT director, and our training manager. That's all of their salaries and fringe benefits. And we divide that by 32 municipalities.
Okay, so that's
It's the
That was the
cost of the
original, that was the original 44, but then.
Divided by 2.
Right. So the pushback was that it's not, when you look at admin as a whole, not everybody feels it's fair that, that it's equally allocated amongst everything. So we felt that half of the admin was equally allocated, and then the other half of the admin is placed into the reserve pools and adjusted on a call.
Because that does affect
Sure.
Hills and South.
It's to your example, your township was looking at $44,000 for granted, so that was one of the reasons we cut it in half. In the analogy here, for $22,000, look at what we pay for bench. Whether you're Chagrin Falls Township, Moreland Hills, Orange, Woodbury, everybody's paying that flat standard rate to be a member of bench, because you're paying for, if you need that service, you need that American, you need those housing negotiators, they're there at 20% of $365. And that was our analogy for that $22,000.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And it's the HR piece more than anything right now, to, like you said, with down 10, yeah, it's tough. It's tough to get dispatchers, and it's not only for us, it's for Beechwood, it's for Southwest, Mayfield, everybody's down. We're all trying to keep our nose on just to keep it like our overtime amount versus what the budget was initially came into is unreal. Because we don't have the lines to dispatch centers, appropriate staff. So our dispatchers they're burnt out. We hire new folks on it, it's not what they thought the job was, where they get a very stressful call and, in 2 weeks they're back. So it's a trouble.
Yeah, the stress levels through the work compared to what it was 25 years ago. I had 4 people quit on me after the nuclear line death. All 4 of them were involved with officers from a variety of different communities and said, we're done. They were very good at dispatchers. How do you predict that?
Any other questions or comments? Chief Diesel, it's a pleasure having you here, by the way, and having you living in South Russell. Andrew, I owe you a beer. It is 7:48. I thought we'd be out. I told him 7:46. I fed him a beer and I lost. Any other comments?
Thank you.
We have one
That's
that's
on the record, right?
on.
We are grandstanding a little bit for a reason.
You know, you were the last one talking here. We have one other item. Please, feel free to exit at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much, Councilor.
I just want to say,
You guys can
Okay, we got one other item on the agenda.
Mayor, before we go on to the next item, what do we have to do? Is there an action that needs to be done with respect to Chagrin Valley Dispatch?
I guess you can take a motion instructing the mayor to vote. I don't know how that goes to the solicitors. Should there be a motion as such?
I would think that council would want to weigh in. If the vote is this week,
We have a motion on the,
I wish council would have been able to weigh in last week on the executive committee vote.
I agree.
I guess I'm a little unclear about the executive committee. Is that 7 people who represent each of them one single jurisdiction? Or do they represent a number of jurisdictions?
I do not know.
well, I know the mayor of Independence represents Brecksville. The mayor of University Heights represents the Heights Hillcrest. Somebody represents Bedford, that would be,
Well, somebody represents every one of the 30-some communities.
Well, that's what I'm hearing. I mean, are the members of the executive committee?
You know, doing the onesies and twosies, that doesn't appear to answer the question.
So
I guess we don't know.
My question is, are we representing a number of communities on the executive board or just Southwest when we made the vote?
I looked at it as what was best for Chagrin Valley Dispatch. And that's how I think all the people voted.
What will the vote be this week? Will it be each member community gets a vote?
It'll be 32 votes.
So you will be there as a representative of the village
Yes,
only,
yes,
not Chagrin Valley Dispatch.
correct.
And will that roll call vote determine whether all the communities buy into the proposal?
That'll be the, yes, it'll be the decision.
Is it a majority vote? Is it a majority vote? Just a
Yes.
simple majority?
So 17 have to vote in favor of this? Okay, and, 10 of them will certainly vote in favor because their cost.
Reduction.
14,
14, so,
and 18 have cost increases. So,
We can drop out of this group anytime we want.
No.
Yeah, if you want to drop, you drop at the end of 2025 when you
Right.
switch fire department.
I mean, that's the problem, you can't drop just dispatch, you have to drop fire department too.
That's
You're gonna
because,
go to Russell or Bainbridge or anyone. And I will also say this, Mayor, if we're even thinking about dropping Chagrin Valley Dispatch and Chagrin Falls Fire Department and moving somewhere else, we need to start planning well in advance for that. You remember that rigmarole we went through last time with this? It took months to get this going.
And, you know, in terms of savings, you know, that'd be an interesting question because I know right now that Bainbridge has on their ballot that they're looking at significantly increasing costs for fire, as well as potentially laying off members of the fire department. So, you know, what may seem like the simple solution to say, well, we'll just go with somebody else. I'm just saying it's going to take some homework and analysis because it may not necessarily capture the savings that we're thinking about.
And our contract with Chagrin goes through the under 25.
25, right?
So then tonight, we would vote just for this coming year?
See, my My vote at the executive committee was to get this approved for 2025. If we want to get out at the end of 2025, we now, as Dennis said, do our research, see what the community wants.
So what were you gonna say, Mark?
Last time we did this, we sent out an RFP. We directed it to, I think it was Bainbridge, Newberry, and Russell. Russell and Bainbridge responded. And I think Newberry might have, but they were out of the running early.
I don't think they did, and they're volunteer.
Well, they are, on the social grant, right?
Sure. But their staff are a little different.
It is, so it was Russell and Bainbridge. Russell was the better choice.
And they're not volunteer, they're part-time.
Part-time, yeah, I keep forgetting that. Yeah. But anyway, so it was quite the process. Put out the RFP, get the responses, do the interviews, and, at the end of it all, the response time for the western part of the village is what drove everything. Even though, correct me if I'm wrong, I think all three fire departments are like 3 miles apart, or 3 miles from our village center. But the response time for Chagrin was 90 seconds, maybe?
I can't
It
remember.
was something like that.
I didn't receive, I'll pull that report from the last
It
time.
would, Daniel, but the point was made, 90 seconds or 60 seconds doesn't sound like much unless your house is on fire. And then it makes a big difference.
So what we're just, sorry, Jerry.
When's this vote going to take place?
Wednesday afternoon,
I said, and all 32 will vote.
yes.
Okay, let's say it fails. What's their option?
I would imagine that this late in the year, they'll just do a simple percentage added on to the previous bill. And then take next year, 2025, to come up with something else.
I wonder how they would base that percentage.
Call
Would it be equal? Would it be equal or?
I think they would just say everyone's gonna have their costs go up a certain percentage.
Except there's 14 communities that have already been told that their costs are going down.
Correct.
And now all of a sudden you're gonna turn around and say, okay, 7 to 10% or whatever the number is.
They've been told that your costs could go down if they vote for this, if the vote passes.
So if we agree upon this, we agree that we're in favor of a central dispatch center instead of 3, with a 48+% increase to the village of South Russell. Is that correct? If we vote no, and it fails no, then we have what Jerry just asked, percentage increase. Chances are it's going to pass. If I'm looking at the numbers here.
Yeah.
We can still, if it passes, doesn't matter to us frankly, because if we want to leave at the end of 2025.
Well, it doesn't matter because our costs go up 50% almost.
We have an ordinance that allows us to bill individuals for false alarms in the village, false alarms, for false burglar alarms. Is there any way to recoup our money from the lantern for this substantial increase in the calls to the lantern? Is there anything that we could put in place to bill the lantern for an excess amount of rescue calls?
Just the lantern, not everybody.
Because it's repetitive over there.
So question, how long has the Lantern been in business? Does anybody know?
They said 2019.
More than that.
Yeah. When did they offer us back?
16, I think it was.
Okay, so 20, yeah, I mean, so they said 800 calls, so let's just say it's 100 calls a year, okay? On an average of 1,600 calls, okay, 1/16 is about 7%. Okay, so you're not talking a significant number related to the 48% increase in cost. I mean, I think that's a red herring.
Please remember looking that since 2019, we've been underpaying what we should be paying. If you looked at inflation every year, we should be paying about $82,000.
Did we not say that when we joined CBD, that the concept was that our costs were gonna go down over time because they were gonna add more communities.
Correct.
And it was gonna be lower dollars. So I don't think that the argument that we've got a savings or we're underpaying, I don't think that flies in the face of what we were promised in 2014 when they started in business.
Well, our costs did go down for a number of years, right? Yeah.
Well,
Now they're going up.
$3,000. They went down from what, 62 to 59?
62 to 59, they said 5.5%, I didn't run the
And we
numbers. but-
received 14,000 of our original buy-in refunded.
There's a number of years that it dropped substantially, so there's quite a bit of drop. It's not just that small
Okay,
amount.
but the reason for the increase is the fact that they expanded. I mean, that's the disconnect. If adding communities was supposed to make the cost go down per community, then that's not happening here.
And there was never any thought to a ceiling or a maximum number of communities they would take that I recall. And you're right, because we add more communities, the cost to everyone goes down, which is kind of logical, but not in this circumstance evidently. I mean, it could be possible that maybe Euclid decides to go somewhere else, have their own dispatch. That would have significant cost savings to everybody else if they did, but that seems unlikely for the same
Unlikely.
reasons we're talking about. So I guess the question now is, does council wish to pass a motion to instruct the mayor to vote one way or another on this particular issue? Are we in favor of staying with them? Do you want to make a protest vote?
Well, should the vote even be whether we stay with them? Should the vote be more geared towards, should the mayor vote for a cost increase to the village residents? Because that's what we're really talking about. In the bigger picture of staying or go, we're one vote of 32. So it could be that the other guys that are having an increase might say, Chagrin Falls Township will probably definitely say no. Of course, the people that are getting a reduction are definitely gonna vote yes. But, in terms of just this one particular year, if we're looking at 2025, should we be thinking about the residents and increased costs?
Sure, but we're gonna get an increase, presumably, if it fails. The only question is, how big will it be?
Well, it won't be 50%.
I hope not.
Well, if it's 10%, it's $6,000 versus $28,000.
Okay.
I mean,
So maybe we want to say no this time around, see what our increase is.
I agree. I think the protest vote is the right way to go.
Well, and then we explore other options, and if we wind up crawling back to CBD.
I mean, our vote doesn't mean we go crawling back to CBD. It means that if the majority goes for the increase, it means, okay, well, we have to suck it up and go with the increase. And then at the end of the contract year, say, maybe we investigate other options.
2025, well, it says then tomorrow we have to start doing our due diligence to find out what our other options are for the benefit of our residents.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're saying that this is going to pass. And if it does pass, okay, but if it doesn't pass, it's telling them to go back and sharpen their pencils. Because in my experience, you can always sharpen the pencil.
What if they want to, so if this went to all the members for a vote, and if it doesn't pass, they have to come up with something and then come back to the members, right?
Right.
So we don't know that it's a 7% or whatever.
If they run out of time and they don't have time to try to formulate another formula, then they will probably do the across the board increase. Otherwise, you're going back to the drawing board regardless if it
Well,
fails.
if you look at the bottom line number, the increase for this year is 508,000 on a proposed budget of 14,600,000. Okay, in round numbers, it's about 5.5%, something like that. Okay, so, you know, that's where the increase is, or should be,
5%,
is 5.5 to 6%, something like that.
as
Okay,
opposed to 40-something percent.
as opposed to 48%. You know what? I'd take 5.5% and say, you know, okay, we still got a year to look at what our options are.
Have you been underpaying for the last 10 years?
That's off the board. We entered the contract under the terms that they gave us, Mayor. Now, why they overcharged other communities, I don't know what their reasoning was, and I don't really care because I'm concerned about our community. But, you know, we didn't cheat them out of anything. We agreed to the terms that were presented, as well as the concept that with more members, our prices were even going to be better.
And on the flip side, it could have gone the other way. We could have paid more, depending if other communities had not joined. So whether we underpaid or overpaid in the years past, irrelevant to me. The question is, we're getting a $28,000 hit now. If this passes, Chris's point is 5.5%. If it doesn't,
You know,
Okay. Do we have a motion?
with the information we have now, knowing that we haven't had the time to do our due diligence for the future, the only information we have right now is CBD. Right now, the information I have, it's hard to justify 48.41%. It might be that's a deal a year from now, or it's a good idea for our residents, but we haven't had a chance to think about the future yet.
and it's also true, we have to have dispatch.
Oh, yes, sure.
We're not gonna make our own, I don't think.
Oh, God.
If I may suggest, if we ask our mayor to vote no, I think it would be appropriate for our mayor to explain to this group why.
How do you feel about that, Mayor?
What's that?
How do you feel about that?
I think the best thing for us is to get this thing, to approve this thing, gets us into 2025, and we have 14 months to talk to Chagrin, Bentonville, Bainbridge, and Russell, and the county, and see if they're gonna have a better deal.
Okay, if they vote pass this, we have a year, right?
Yes.
If they don't pass this and we get a percentage, we still have a year, right?
Yeah.
We're not going in for a year.
Say it again.
We're not going anywhere for a year regardless.
Only because of Chagrin Valley Fire Department. That's locked in there. So that locks us into CBD.
Chief, could you remind me of the reason Chagrin Fire Department doesn't take county dispatch?
They've been with CBD all along.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Chagrin Valley Fire, Chagrin Valley, it used to be Chagrin Falls Fire Department, they were with Chagrin Falls Dispatch from day one. So, and on top of that, there were a number of agencies even further west that Chagrin Falls dispatched for back in the day, like University Circle. But when I first came here, there were 6 of us. It was us, Bentleyville, Moreland Hills, Hunting Valley, Orange Village, Chagrin Falls Township. And then since the position here, since CBD, was formed, we added Woodmere, we added Gates Mills to our channel, and then, they kind of expanded from there. Chagrin Fire Department has always been dispatched by Chagrin Falls or CBD.
Sarah Sanders and Doris Smith.
Yeah, and we are the only municipality outside of their Chagrin Valley Fire Department's territory. Yeah.
Chief, can the Chagrin Valley Fire Department, can they use Geauga County dispatch?
I
Can they use both of them?
Yeah, probably wouldn't make sense.
I mean, we can go to them and say, hey, if you want to keep us, you're going to have to respect Geauga County Dispatch.
And you'd have to have all of the other municipalities who they serve on board with that. That would be a huge
It'd be, yeah,
undertaking. I
it's
don't
the
know
spider
that
web.
would never
Well, and
fly.
the Cuyahoga County entities like Chagrin, I don't think would be eligible for Geauga.
Right.
That's true.
And that's why the previous conversation was the other two, yeah.
I think one of the things to remember is Chagrin Falls Fire Department, they can get into South Russell much quicker than the other two fire agencies. All they basically have to do is come up East Washington Street and they're here. Russell and Bainbridge have a trip down 306 and it's gonna take them, much more time to get into South Russell and then you gotta go east-west. So Chagrin Falls fire response times are always gonna be the best on the west end of town.
That was true last time. So do we want a motion to instruct the mayor how to vote or not?
Yes.
Make a motion, please.
Okay.
Make it a roll call.
Yeah. Make the motion in the affirmative and say, make the motion that council should approve the mayor's, should instruct the mayor to vote yes at the Wednesday Chagrin Valley Dispatch meeting to approve their 2025 budget.
Second.
I'll second.
Second by Ruth. Roll call.
Malicki,
Nay.
Porter,
Aye.
Bell,
Nay.
Berger,
No.
Canton,
Nay.
Kavanaugh,
Yes,
so it's 4-2.
4-2, motion fails. Okay. Next item on the agenda is Kenco Electric Incorporated, water fund. One, please.
Yes. Okay, for Fresh Council's memory, this is about the solar panel and base station upgrade projects. As far as the solar panels are concerned, it is for coordinating with the police department upgrade to get the solar panels and the police department finished with electrical work this year. The idea here is that we want one contractor to do everything. In that they replace the panel, they tie in the solar panels, they climb the pole to hook it to the transformer, they bring the cable, the electric cable, which is the aluminum, from the pole to the street, to the police department, and then it all gets hooked together. Dave Hosvar and the chief coordinated getting a number of quotes, which you have in front of you, the lowest of which is Kenco Electric Inc., and it is to do all of this work for $2,538, which includes the cable. The other quotes did not, a couple of them did not include the cable, and even so, they were higher. So in order to move forward with the police department upgrade and the solar panel tie-in, which will allow the chief to get going with the small garage for the drone vehicle, I move, we need an ordinance, just a motion, right?
I think just, sorry. So one of them looks like it's just a quote, which is the email, right? The other looks like it's a bit of an agreement, right? It has actual terms. Normally, we would do an ordinance on an agreement.
I'm happy to do an ordinance.
I'm sorry, Mary.
Well, I mean, it shows accepted, respectfully submitted, it lacks the terms and conditions that I've, 3 or 4 pages of which I like to see as a lawyer, but still.
Right.
So I'd like to introduce an ordinance, permitting the mayor and the fiscal officer, assisted by the chief and the service department director and the building inspector, with Kenco Electric Inc. for the purposes of the upgrade to the police department electric system and the tie-in of the solar panel project, in the amount of $2,538. So moved. Oh, move to waive readings, declare an emergency.
Second.
Roll call.
Lickey.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Bell.
Aye.
Berger.
Aye.
Canton.
Aye.
Kevin.
Aye.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Lickey.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Bell.
Aye.
Berger.
Aye.
Canton.
Aye.
Kevin.
Ordinance passes. We have done the two items that we're allowed to do in the special council meeting. Do we have a motion to adjourn at 8:16?
So moved.
Moved by Porter, second by Canton. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
That's a shame that we couldn't use the local person.